because with such a deep draft class, with the fact that they have their pick for this year, and kind of like you have an excuse to be bad this year because they got moved to Tampa. Hello and welcome to the Friday, April 23rd edition of the TV on Basketball podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're all having a fantastic day today, and thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. Before we start, I do have to plug my other platforms. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other amazing content. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. For all my podcast listeners, remember, if you're on Apple, to subscribe and leave a review. That would definitely help with the numbers. And as for my Spotify, Anchor, and Podbean listeners, continue to show your support in whatever way you can. I really do appreciate all of you. I do have an awesome show lined up for you today. I think I have one or two non-NBA topics. One very tragic, the other one great news. So we're going to get to that to start off the proceedings today. We're also going to be talking about the race for the 10th seed, a Raptors rundown, and some other awesome topics, including something I'm going to start introducing on Fridays, which is Top 5 Fridays. And this week I'm doing, you could say it's a top 5 or not, but I'm going to be looking at some of the best misses in recent NBA history because of that Joel Embiid missed a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's going to be an amazing episode. Thank you guys for all your support once again. But yeah, that's going to be the episode for today. Just sit back, relax, and let's jump into this first topic. We're going to start off with some very tragic news that hit the basketball world yesterday. Kentucky standout Terrence Clarke died tragically in a car crash yesterday. Apparently his car, he ran a red light and he got hit by a car that was actually turning left. And yeah, it was just very tragic news for that day. He, like I said, he was a Kentucky standout. He actually signed with Clutch Sports the day before, and Rich Paul confirmed it to ESPN that he did die. Again, very tragic. Someone who is a highly touted prospect, declared for the NBA draft back in March. He was about to make his dream come true. He was about to, and everything was like lining up great for him, and it just got taken away just like that. There were reports early on that his teammate BJ Boston was also part of the crash, but luckily he wasn't. He was in the car behind him. But yeah, I don't know. Like, prayers up to his family, prayers up to his teammates who heard the news. I know it must be really tough on them as well. And I guess the message just coming from this is just to cherish life. I mean, this guy had his whole life ahead of him. This guy was about to start his journey going through the NBA, and it just disappeared very quickly. Very tragic. And from here at the TV on Basketball podcast, we do definitely send our condolences and hope his family's doing well, and that his teammates will continue to handle this professionally and in a well manner. It's just so sad to see just a young life just cherished like that, and we will keep him in our prayers. Yeah, then we start off the podcast with that tragic news. Another a non-NBA topic that we are going to be going through right now as well is some news regarding the George Floyd case this week. I usually do not talk. I don't talk about politics too often. I do so maybe one every 50 episodes or so. And this time I do have to discuss this issue because the trial for Derek Chauvin, the one who actually kneed on the neck of George Floyd, finally got his final verdict, and he was guilty on all accounts. He was guilty for second-degree accidental murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. And all I gotta say is this is a big W for justice today. Justice was definitely served. A lot of people were rejoicing, including the NBA world, including myself. That whole situation was a huge mess. It was absolutely horrible to see. And I am glad to say that when we got justice on this day. Um, but that is just kind of just one of the many situations that happened, and actually, and one of the very few battles that we did win. Um, the fact that people were still unsure until the final verdict shows that work needs to be done. Police reform, um, looking at our own biases towards people of color, um, understanding the experiences of people of color as well. There's still a lot of institutional racism in general around the world, and we need to do our best as people to kind of recognize it every day and try our best to not contribute to it. As for myself, I'm still learning about this every day, and we have to continue to listen to those who are oppressed, whether it's the Black community, whether it's the Asian community, whether it's different religious communities, whatever. All oppression is bad, and although this is a W for justice today, there is still a lot of work to be done. But I could happily say that that through this long, hard process of almost a full year, that I'm able to say that Derek Chauvin got what he deserved, 100%, and I'm glad everyone came together to help raise awareness for this and finally get him the type of sentence he deserves. So, yeah, it was fantastic on that, but we just could just continue to work on this every day so we can keep lessening these type of interactions, these type of incidents by the day. But yeah, those are the two topics to start off today that are technically not NBA related, but we will get right into the NBA related topics now. Obviously, we're going to start off with the Raptors rundown. This week is actually not a lot to talk about because only one game happened this week. The Raptors continued their winning streak and extended it to 4 games as they defeat the Brooklyn Nets 114 to 103. This game was great because all the Raptors basically came back. I think the only 2 players that weren't playing were Bembry and Paul Watson due to 2 knee injuries. Actually, no, Bembry was available. It was Rodney Hood and Paul Watson. But Larry came back, Van Vliet came back, Siakam and OG returned, and the Raptors were able to still pick up a win. A very slow first half, but they started to pick up at the end of the second quarter, and they carried that momentum into the third quarter and didn't look back. OG led the way with, Pascal led the way with 27, with OG contributing 25 as well. And it was just a very good game, although facing a Brooklyn Nets team without KD or James Harden. It was a good win for the Toronto Raptors, and they still are keeping their play-in chances alive, which we will get into that race for the 10th place seed very soon. But other news coming out of this game is sadly Chris Boucher had to leave with some sort of leg injury. I know he was coming down for a rebound, and he landed on TLC's leg, and it didn't look good, especially for a tall, lanky guy like Boucher. I think that type of injury is kind of very sensitive for him, especially because he hasn't really developed muscles in that region. But hopefully it's not too bad. I haven't seen an official part if he's gonna miss a couple games or so, but hopefully he's okay. And the Raptors, man, they're still fighting hard. Like I said, we're going to get into the 10th place race later, but the Raptors are keeping themselves alive in somehow, some way. Even with this very rough season that we're having, we are still able to pick up some wins. And just to preview some of the weekends of this weekend of games, we are facing the New York Knicks tomorrow. As I'm recording on Friday, the Raptors are facing the New York Knicks on the weekend, 1 p.m. on Saturday. These are very 2 hot teams in the East right now. The Knicks currently on an 8-game winning streak. The Raptors on a 4-game winning streak. I think the Raptors would be more desperate to try and get the win here, but with the way the Knicks are playing, it's really hard to see a team like the Raptors try and stop them. Especially someone who is hot as Julius Randle at the moment, averaging over 30 points during this winning streak and stuff, and he has been playing absolutely fantastic. The Raptors are still in the fight for the 10th seed, so there could be still some, desperation there. But the Knicks, they're playing fantastic, and as I talked about on Monday, they're continuing to roll, and they could be some sort of a threat in the East this year. Who knows? Especially if their matchup is the Atlanta Hawks. if they somehow face the Atlanta Hawks in a 4-5 matchup, who knows? They actually could squeak out of there with a victory. But yeah, good week for the Toronto Raptors, even though it's one game. It was a good win. I don't know how many people are actually going to play for the Raptors on Saturday. That's something I always have to keep in mind, but good win still nonetheless. Let's see if the Raptors are able to continue it come Saturday. Now let's talk about this 10th place race in the East, because this, I know it's really like not a great topic to talk about. If anything, it's a pretty sad topic to talk about, because the biggest race right now in the East is trying to get that 10th place spot, or at least the most intense, because there are 3 teams in the mix. I know some guys want to include the Cavs, but I'm just completely disregarding them. But when it comes to that final play-in spot, we have 3 teams fighting for that spot in the Toronto Raptors, the Washington Wizards, and the Chicago Bulls. I'm going to go through each of the teams' kind of chances and basically like putting into some sort of like chart, like giving them percentages. And then at the end, I would say like who I think is going to make it and who I would kind of want to get in. Let's go first with the most likely team in my opinion, and that is the Washington Wizards. For me, they're the most likely team to get into this. I'm giving them a 50% chance. Right now, like talking about the Raptors and the Knicks, they're scorching hot right now as well, winning 6 straight games. And they completely changed their style of play to how Russell Westbrook played in Oklahoma City. And that is, we're playing small ball. Let Russell Westbrook grab the rebounds. I mean, he showed that in the game versus the Warriors, where he grabbed 20 and just run the break with him. And he's just playing absolutely, fantastic because of it. And he's having another year where he's averaging a triple-double, 22, 11, and 11. Like, usually he's, like, on the edge of not making it, but this year he has firmly cemented himself as leading leading the league in triple-doubles, and 2, averaging a triple-double full stop. Like, he is playing great this year. And with him and Bradley Beal both being healthy now, it seems like, they're just talented enough. It's just going to force them into this play-in tournament. And I said before the season, actually back to Russell Westbrook. If you guys didn't know either, he's leading the league right now in clutch scoring and field goal percentage in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter when the game is within 5 points. So he is also providing some clutch plays for the Wizards as well. But if you guys remember my preseason preview for this team, I had them making it the 8th seed. And it's not because I thought this team was like any like that great or whatever. It's mostly because this team built with the foundation of Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook is just gonna have enough heart with Russell Westbrook leading the team to just edge them into the playoffs. And now maybe I didn't expect them to start off this slow, but they're turning it up, and like they say, it's better late than never. And just the way that they're like playing like Russell Westbrook's game, like they're giving themselves a chance to make it into the play-in tournament. Now, they still have a pretty tough strength of schedule the rest of the way. I believe they're the top 10 in the league in terms of strength of schedule. So it will be a tough road, but I just think that the talent of just Beal and Westbrook and the way they're just outpacing teams, outscoring teams, I think will just be enough for them to get in. Now let's talk about the Toronto Raptors. I mean, I'm not going to go too long on them, but right now they have, I think, in terms of their remaining schedule, top 7 in strength of schedule. And the thing about this Raptors team is that compared to the Wizards and the Bulls, I think that they have the healthiest team among the they have the best team in terms of them at full strength compared to the Wizards and the Bulls, because of the coaching, because of their core members just knowing how to play with each other. I just think that they have kind of the best among the 3, and I think that they have probably although they have the least chance out of these 3, I still think that I wouldn't be surprised if they got in. But the question with the Toronto Raptors, especially this year, and checking the way that Nick Nurse is sitting people and stuff like that, are they even like really bothered of making it or not? because with such a deep draft class, with the fact that they have their pick for this year, and kind of like you have an excuse to be bad this year because they got moved to Tampa. They got put in a situation where it was hard for them to adjust, and it took them quite a long time to even adjust. Like I can even say confidently that they haven't like fully adjusted yet. Like you can have that excuse this year, have a mini tank, maybe see what you got in some of these young guys, and I think Raptors fans would be fine with it. So it's really just a matter of fact: do they want to? Do they are they like set on trying to trade Kyle Lowry in the offseason in the sign and trade? So you don't want to get him hurt. But with their inconsistencies right now, with like their way that they're setting up the rotation, like having like so many guys in and out the lineup, it's really tough to say if they even like really want to. But I think even though with a tough strength of schedule, I think that they still have a decent chance of going to it. If I have the Wizards at 20%, at 50%, I have the Raptors at 20%. Just because they have a tough schedule, their inconsistencies really do bother me. But I do believe when healthy, this is probably the best team out of these three. Now let's talk about the Chicago Bulls, because I think this has been kind of the worst case scenario for them in terms of trying to make the play tournament. Because like I mentioned, I believe it was the last episode or episode before that, Zach LaVine is out right now because of health and safety protocols, and he's gonna be out for until at least next week. And the good thing about the Bulls, I mean, they still are getting like these wins, especially against the Hornets yesterday. They got a good win, and also they were able to get a win over the Celtics in that process. But the thing about this Chicago Bulls team is, besides especially when Zach LaVine gets back, you're gonna get production from LaVine. You're gonna get production from Nikola Vucevic. But who's gonna be that consistent third guy? They've been hoping Larry Markkinen was gonna be that guy. They're hoping maybe Kobe White could be that guy. But they just have been so inconsistent this year. Like, it's really hard to rely on them. And for me, their third best player this year, at the least, is either, you can maybe make the argument for Patrick Williams, as he has been a great defender for them. But I can even make the argument for Thaddeus Young. And he has been kind of like very solid all year round. And I think he has been a great addition for that team that they brought in last year. But with Zach LaVine out, although they have a pretty easy schedule, I think top 10 easy schedules in terms of strength of schedule, like they have like top 10 easiest. Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough? And are they going to be able to kind of stick in this race with the Raptors and the Wizards until Zach LaVine comes back? I don't know. I'm not sure if I trust this team going forward, but I do give them a slight chance over the Raptors because I really do think that they want to have some sort of experience for these young guys, and at least being in a playing tournament gives them that playoff experience. And I give them a 30% chance of getting in. I will give them that percentage. I just do not trust the inconsistency of this team. They're still not a great defense whatsoever, and they got a lot of work to do in terms of like this offseason, trying to figure out who they want to keep around, who they want to trade. But I still think the goal in mind is to try and make that play tournament. So they're going to continue to try hard. Whether their team is good enough to take them there, we'll have to wait and see. But I do give them a 30% chance. Now, as you can tell by my percentage, I do think the Wizards have the best chance of getting in. And obviously, I do want the Raptors to get in. If I want to go with my fan bias, I do want to see them back in those like playoff type atmosphere games. But objectively speaking, if I had to pick one team that I would like to be in the playoffs, it would have to be the Wizards. I think if they do make the play-in tournament, I do believe that they have a chance of making the 8th seed. And if they face the 76ers in the first round, I have no doubt in my mind that they will lose. But I think they'll make it interesting. And by interesting, maybe taking off 1 or 2 games from that, because Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal are just going to will this team past, a couple games past that team. And I think it would just make for the most entertaining series. The Raptors would probably actually be the second most entertaining series because of the way that they know how to deal with Joel Embiid in the past. I don't know if they have the right pieces now, but I still think that would be a very interesting matchup. But, who knows? I mean, all these guys have a pretty good chance of getting it in. It's just about who firstly wants it more, and two, who's gonna kind of catch lightning in the bottle in terms of getting onto the streak, because the Raptors are streaking right now, the Wizards are streaking at the right time. Can the Bulls just find kind of that little run that they can have to kind of keep them in the race, and also just try to overtake the Wizards or the Raptors? We're gonna have to wait and see. Next topic we're gonna be talking about is the MVP race, and the reason I want to talk about this is because Embiid was asked this week who he thought who the MVP was, and obviously he said himself. Same thing with Curry. He thinks himself as the MVP. And then Jokic came out this week saying, "Look, I'm glad people are backing me for MVP, but I want to get the championship." And in terms of this MVP race, people have been making arguments for a lot of people. Steph Curry, obviously, because he has had an amazing run, especially over this last month, especially this month of April. Besides that, the last game against the Wizards, where he was absolutely tragic. But besides that, he's been on fire. Embiid, very dominant still in these games, playing awesome on offense, also awesome on defense. But if I had to say something about this MVP race, it would have to be that Jokic is the MVP in my opinion, and for me it's not really even close. And one of the biggest reasons why is that that he's benefiting from is that, one, people are missing a lot of games. Like, a lot of the MVP candidates are missing games due to injury, whether it's James Harden, who he was competing with. Giannis was in and out of the lineup, and the Bucks really haven't impressed all that much. Embiid missed a bunch of games. And another thing that's helping out Jokic in this race is that the other MVP candidates, such as Lillard and Curry, their team is just not good enough for them to have the argument to be MVP. And with Jokic playing every single game this year, the Nuggets still playing well even without Jamal Murray, I think he is running away with this. When compared to Embiid, I think they have very similar offensive impact. If not, Jokic slightly has the edge on him. And although Embiid has the better defense than him for sure, Jokic is still leading his team to a very good record this year. 38-20, only 2.5 games behind the third seed. But Embiid has just missed way too many games for me to consider him MVP. If he didn't get that injury where he missed 10 plus games, I would have had him there. I would have had him for sure as like a top MVP candidate, but he just missed too many games for me. And for Curry, if you really want to go with the literal definition of most valuable player, you can make the argument for Steph Curry. I will not deny that, because over this last month, I think if you've been listening to my recaps, I said that he was basically averaging almost 40 a game, 55% from the field, 50% from three, 70% from the free throw line. Like, it's mind-blowing how good he is. And we know how bad this team is without him, because we've seen that last year. But his team, I mean, he's sitting at 10th place right now. You just cannot make that argument for Steph Curry. As much as he's been absolutely fantastic this year, arguably one of his best seasons in terms of just individual play. And the fact he's doing this off an injury is still impressive as hell. But Jokic is like, if Jokic was like letting up, maybe you can make the argument, but he's been just awesome all year round. 26 points a game, 11 rebounds, 9 assists almost, 57% from the field, 41% from three, 85% from the line. Like, he's just not letting up, and there's no reason for like he hasn't done anything like kind of like a rough stretch or anything where you can make the argument that, you know, maybe he's fell off a bit. He hasn't. And although maybe Embiid does have like better counting stats in terms of points and rebounds, and his team has a better record, he, like I said, he just missed too many games. And Jokic has been an Iron Man all season throughout this whole health and safety protocol era, him not getting injured. He's just been absolutely great, and I think he is just going to be running away with this MVP award. So yeah, there's that. In terms of these topics, let me know down below what you think. Who do you think is going to get the 10th seed in the East? Who do you think is the MVP? And just any thoughts on the Raptors, just let me know down below. I'm going to be starting a new series here on Fridays called Top 5 or something like that, just like Top 5 Fridays. And this week, this Top 5 was inspired by what happened in the Philadelphia 76ers versus Phoenix Suns game. If you didn't see what happened at the end, I think it was Chris Paul was at the free throw line. He hit the first free throw to extend the game to 3 points with 0.8 seconds left. So this game looked basically over. And And somehow, some way, Chris Paul, who was, I believe, over a 93% free throw shooter, missed the second free throw. Embiid grabbed a rebound, turned around in one motion, basically football through it, and almost banged it in from full court. That would have been one of the craziest shots in NBA history. Like, the entire 76er team was just distraught. The fact that he almost made it. And it was just a fantastic miss. It just rimmed out. The Suns players were like, what the heck? How did that almost go in? Like, that whole situation is insane. And that play inspired me going into a rabbit hole of some of the best misses in NBA history. A lot of them were dunks, and quite a number of them actually here are dunks. But, yeah, this is my top 5. In terms of recent memory, I'm not going to put them in any order, but here are 5 just some great misses I do want to discuss from recent NBA history, because I didn't think there were going to be that much, but man, there has been a lot. So let's go through this. Do I want to do this in chronological order? Yes, I do. The first one I do want to discuss is that I want to point out is Shannon Brown. If you guys don't remember him, he was the high flyer for the Lakers in the late 2000s. And there's this play where against the Phoenix Suns, Jason Richardson tried taking a charge when he was with the Suns, and Shannon Brown took off from the free throw line, like just inside the free throw line, and almost ended Jay Rich's career. He almost did. He just missed a dunk. The entire Lakers stadium just went to their feet, but he just missed a dunk. Like, I don't know what the heck he was going through. Like, he had no regard for whoever was there. He just knew that he was going to jump, and that no one was gonna stop him no matter what. That was just a crazy thing, especially if you see how high he jumped and the way he used like his knee to like elevate even higher on Jason Richardson. Like, that play is insane. You guys should definitely go check it out. That for me is one of the greatest missed dunks I've ever seen, just because of how high he was, and kind of like especially being in Staples Center, man. Like, that would have been one of the craziest dunks probably of this century. Another play, which is I don't think a lot of people talk about in terms of greatest misses, is Andre Iguodala when he was with the Warriors. I think he was facing the New Orleans Pelicans at the time. He had this play where he was coming from the left wing. He goes to the free throw line. He does that weird Chris Paul dribble where he kind of dribbles it behind his legs to from behind him to in front of him. He absolutely faked the guy out. He basically crossed him up in that point. Then he goes for the jam, like that whole sequence, like just getting that dribble off, and then going for the jam. Like, he just missed the dunk. Like, he didn't get blocked. He just got freaking denied by the rim. And if you guys see it, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to post a clip like in this YouTube video or not, but oh man, like that play was just absolutely insane. Like, honestly, like if you just seen it, you just see him just hit the CB3 behind the through the legs dribble and then went for the jam. Like, that would have been one of the great posters, but just that whole sequence of him just like crossing up a guy would have been just absolutely fantastic. And that was just like, if it went in, man, if it just went in. This next one, also a very ridiculous dunk, and I do want to mention this because this would have been the Anthony Edwards dunk before the Anthony Edwards dunk. Dennis Smith Jr., when he was on the New York Knicks, was going up against the San Antonio Spurs. I believe it was like 2 or 3 years ago. And what he did, he just came from the top of the key, drove in. Davis Bertans tries jumping, and Dennis Smith fully tries to tomahawk all over him, causing him to go to the floor. But he just missed the dunk. And what, again, this, like, location matters in this for me, and in terms of, like, greatest misses. And he, like, this being an MSG, this would have been, like, all over SportsCenter, all over, you know, the news, all over social media. Like, this would have been just one of the greatest dunks of all time, in my opinion. Especially with the way he forced Davis Bertans to the floor. And obviously, because it's in New York, it would get a lot more attention. So, man, if that just went in. Luckily, we got the Anthony Edwards dunk to kind of give us that type of moment, but at the same time, DSJ, man, especially on a bigger forward like Davis Bertans, who I believe is like 6'9", 6'10", and Dennis Smith Jr. is like 6'1". Man, that would have looked super nice. And then these last two I do want to group together because I'm going to be talking about the king of missed highlights in Ja Morant. Obviously, the first one I'm going to talk about is the one over Kevin Love in his rookie season versus the Cavs. Kevin Love tried taking a charge, and Ja Morant really tried to Frederick Weiss him, like the Vince Carter on Frederick Weiss dunk. He literally tried to end Kevin Love's whole career by jumping over him, but again, he just missed the dunk. That was absolutely filthy. I don't think any call was, there was no call on the play, so if he hit that, oh my goodness gracious. Like he had the leg work and everything. That would have been the nastiest dunk I have ever seen all time in a game. That was just absolutely crazy, that whole situation. And man, just one of those things, man. Ja Morant has so many of these, whether it's 360 layups, whether it's missed dunks over people like Draymond, like Anthony Davis. There are just so many of them, but the Kevin Love in terms of dunking has to be the best one there in terms of misses. And then this other one, which I believe goes unnoticed as well. It was Ja Morant versus the Pelicans, and he tried jamming on someone. I think that was his full intent. He wanted to jam on this big man, but he had great position on him. So what he did, it was midway through the dunk, he realized that he wasn't going to get it off, so he contorts his body midair and kind of throws it just behind his back to drop it off to Jared Jackson Jr. Probably one of the nicest passes I've ever seen. But Jaren Jackson Jr. just gets fouled on the play. I don't know how Ja Morant saw him. I don't know how he was able to even get that pass off. But man, that was a crazy, crazy play if he was able to pull that off. Man, that was just Ja Morant, man. He has so many just almost highlights. And the thing is, he still has some good highlights. I mean, he has some great alley-oops and stuff throughout his career, in his young career already. But man, he would have had one of the nicest highlight packages if just some of these just went down, man. Just some of these, which is crazy. But yeah, those are some of the greatest misses, I believe, from recent NBA history. Let me know down below some of the other great misses that you guys recall, and I'll definitely respond to it for sure. Before we end today's episode, here's some other news and notes. Lots of injuries to report this week. I mean, Chris Boucher, like I mentioned earlier in the Raptors rundown, had us kind of landed awkwardly. Still don't know kind of his MRI or whatever. Hopefully it's not too serious. Other injuries that happened this week. Miles Turner has a tear in his big toe. Yeah, very surprising that this happened. And it couldn't have happened at a worse time for the Pacers, who have been super inconsistent this year, can never get healthy. And although it looks like they're pretty safe at the 9th spot, if they go on like on a bad run here, who knows? The Wizards and the Raptors, even the Bulls, if they go on a good run, have a chance to overtake them. It's still not over. There's still like 13, 14 games left. It's definitely bad timing for the Pacers. Juan Toscano Anderson had this awesome hustle play he tried doing, but he jumped over the announcer's desk and he started bleeding pretty badly on which he required 35 stitches after the game. So hopefully he's okay, but man, that was a crazy, crazy hustle play there. Shout out to Juan Toscano Anderson, but man, that looked really rough when I saw that first. Another injury to report, Trae Young has a grade 2 sprained ankle. And apparently he'll be back as soon as the swelling and pain go down, so there's no official timetable. We're just going to have to wait to see when the pain and swelling go down. But that's very good news, because if you saw the play, I think it was against the New York Knicks. That's where the Knicks won in overtime. He fell underneath the rim, and you can hear him yelling because of those mics that they have attached to the rim. And it sounded really bad. It sounded really, really bad, and obviously with the amount of injuries that happened this year, people were thinking the worst, like, oh no, not another one, not another injury. So, I mean, obviously we were hoping for the best, but we were expecting the worst. And we got the best case scenario, which is fantastic. Hopefully he gets back soon. The Hawks have been fantastic under Nate McMillan so far this year, and Trae Young has been a big contributor to that. So, yeah, good thing that it's nothing too serious. Let's hope to see him back on the court soon. And in terms of the final injury news, Denny Avdia will be out for the remainder of the season due to a hairline fracture in his right ankle. Yeah, that was a rough play for the Wizards in that game. I believe that was against the Warriors. I am not 100% sure. Maybe it's the game before the Warriors. But, yeah, Jordan Bell had to cover that leg. He was really trying to help him up. He had to leave in a wheelchair. And, yeah, that is the end of his season. I thought it was going to be worse. I think he might be able to come back for next year. But for sure, this season's over. He's definitely had a rough season so far. He was the one guy I kind of was like... Because every year I always pick a guy saying like this is gonna be the guy I'm gonna like kind of root and cheer for his career, and that was Denny Avdia for me. But so far this year, 6 points a game, 5 rebounds, 41% from the field, 31% from three. Kind of rough season, but obviously it's his first year. I think he'll have a chance to kind of get better at it. But yeah, this is an unfortunate way to end the season, but hopefully he can come back healthy and come back for the Wizards. And last but not least, in other news and notes, we can end it with some great news. LaMelo Ball and his fractured wrist, he healed. He healed. Some people thought it was going to be a season-ending surgery, but it seems like he's good now, and he is reported to be coming back next week, which is good for the Charlotte Hornets because they're going to need him for this final stretch to try and get them out of this this hole in terms of trying to be part of the play-in tournament. Right now, they're 28 and 29. They lost to the Bulls yesterday, which is pretty rough. And LaMelo Ball will definitely help with that. One of the most entertaining rookies this year. I still think like by the time he comes back, he still will be leading the league in terms of Rookie of the Year. So that's good. But it's nice to know that like people who thought he had a season-ending injury, he's able to come back. So good for LaMelo Ball. But yeah, those are the other news and notes. Let me know what you guys think down below. And in terms of this episode, I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell on YouTube. And remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other content. Obviously, I'm going to be back on Monday with another episode. With the season coming down to an end, I will definitely be getting more guests on the show for sure. One more week of classes, and then starting May, I'm going to try to have a guest a week throughout the remainder of the season. I will do my very best, and hopefully this ends up very well. This would be a great end to the season. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of awards, in terms of all NBAs and stuff like that. That's going to be an amazing time at the end here, and thank you guys for just all your support through all of this. But yeah, this is where we're going to end it. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a fantastic day. TV signing out. Take it easy, guys. Peace.